When Jeremy Stone and I decided we needed a high school band, it came as a natural outgrowth of hanging out together and realizing we both had a pretty strong interest in music, but we probably weren't going to find any bands that would take us in, especially with my subpar vocal talent. So we created a band called JS Squared, later renamed to Bovine Ignition Systems, and we began the process of putting songs together. Since the band only had 2 members, we decided we needed to do multi-track recording, and to our great delight, a machine called the Tascam Portastudio was available. I bought one, we recorded on it, and that's why there's still Bovine Ignition Systems music available to find online. But Jeremy and I, in being in this band, we're definitely setting on a path, a musical path. We went in different directions, but for one beautiful summer, we were thinking pretty strongly that we were going to become audio engineers. This is Jason Scott Talks His Way Out of It, a podcast about technology, history, and getting myself out of debt. Thanks to Jeff Atwood and the hundreds of other supporters on Patreon and elsewhere who have been supporting me and helping me get out of debt. We thought we would be audio engineers because we thought we would be everything else. Eventually, I would learn to play some instruments live, he would play instruments live, we would put together shows, we would become famous for being musicians. We knew that we were going to go in this direction. Our template at the time was the, at that point, extremely new band They Might Be Giants, which had 2 official members, performed with a tape backup, and produced quirky, fun songs that you could enjoy, and which were also extremely weird and sometimes off-putting, but overlaid with a sense of fun and melancholy, which we both had in absolute handfuls. Jeremy, at that point, could play guitar, and he could play keyboards. He had a Korg M1 keyboard, which we both programmed and tried to make things work on. And I was extremely comfortable with a microphone. As we actually pushed together creating songs, we ended up making a few dozen, some of them almost sketches and others rather complete. And one summer, we decided if we were going to take this band to the next level, we were going to have to learn better techniques in audio engineering. Because if we were going to make everything we did recorded first and live second, well, then we were going to have to get it right. The principles behind operating a Tascam Mini Studio are about the same as anything else, so we knew our work could probably translate to whatever equipment we got afterwards. This is a period of time that exists now, not quite as much, where you would go to a music store and there would be an absolute bonanza of machinery for all sorts of audio and music equipment. And since computers had not yet taken over every single aspect of this, there were still specialized areas, machines that were compressors or who were built to do echoing of various stripe. Maybe you would find a bunch of interesting guitar pedals. Maybe you would find a bunch of interesting keyboards. And from all of this, it was obvious that something you learned at one level could translate to the next. So at SUNY Purchase, that summer, Jeremy and I attended an actual college summer course. We learned about the principles of audio engineering, how the equipment worked, what buttons went where. But more than that, we learned a philosophy of how a person approaches recording audio. How your job is not to stack on a bunch of interesting effects or be weird, but to make sure that when the musician, when the performer, including yourself, does the performance, it is captured as well as it can be. to know how all of the cabling works, to know how all of the different microphones act, and to place them around the room and multi-track them so that you are able to capture the performance perfectly. Much like in a film performance, you never want to be told that the camera jammed or somebody forgot to load the canister. You do not want somebody to be told that you never started the tape or you never actually got any of the recording properly. There's nothing more heartbreaking than putting all of yourself into a performance and then looking over at a non-starting tape drive or even an Audacity instance that hasn't been recording. We learned about the fact that this can be a job, and if it's a job, you put in the work, you prepare for your day, and when things are done, you label what you need to, you put things away in a way that somebody else can walk in, take over your position the very next day, and do so with minimal fuss and minimal confusion. And while that may sound very workhorse, very devoid of the artistic spirit, it unwittingly laid the ground for me to understand that when you are creating pieces of work, whether they're creative or even something related to your job or process or business, you are creating a wake of experience and output that others will have to interpret to either complete your work or realize it's redundant. Fast forward 30 years, and Jeremy and I are in very different positions. Jeremy went on to touch all sorts of products that people ended up using by the tens or maybe hundreds of millions. Internet Explorer, Steam, Microsoft Messenger, even Google Stadia. And me, I've done okay. But between us, I think we both internalized that what we were learning ultimately in audio engineering was not just to become mixer jockeys, but to become people who looked at the world as a series of discrete events that in some cases needed to be brought back to teach, to learn, to exploit, to make money from, not knowing what the ultimate goal would be, preparing for almost any eventuality. And most importantly, to realize that you are a component in a chain, that credits are not as important as getting something done, that when you work as you must with people who are difficult or people who don't know how to express themselves, that it's incumbent on you to use your abilities to go in and provide guidance without providing a box, a limitation on them. Some of these skills have absolutely entwined themselves into a lot of my work and a lot of Jeremy's work. Neither of us, I think, regretted taking the summer of two 16-year-olds and spending part of it at a community college. I've long forgotten the name of the teacher, but he was wonderful. He had conspiracy theories, industry tales, but most of all, he had patience. And even though among all these students, these two babies must have been in his front row, I appreciate that he treated us as equals. Anytime I've ever been in a teaching situation and somebody looks really young, my first question isn't, "Why are you here?" It's, "How, to the best of my ability, am I going to help you?" I learned a lot of lessons that summer, and I think I'm still unpacking how many of them I'm still following to this day. This is Jason Scott Talks His Way Out of It. Thanks to James Bekoyanu, Ernie Hershey, Michael Rubin, Dilip Reddy, Sean Kelly, Trixie the Cat, Martin, Symbionce, Benjamin Guts, Joey Mink, David Fisher, and Anonymous, along with the hundreds of other supporters on Patreon and elsewhere who have been supporting me and helping me get out of debt. My musical career did not go all that well. I made a bunch of mods. I made a bunch of computer music. I did not become the lead singer or performer in any band, and occasionally I mess around with things musically. But I'm more of a connoisseur. I'm somebody who loves to listen to a wide variety of music and enjoy it. I'm still drawn in when somebody creates a new toy or creates a new way to do music, and that's probably never going to stop. But the days when I would sit in Jeremy's house and we would come up with lyrics on a notepad, and then we would try to put together a beat and make it all interesting and then play on top of it, that's not what I'm doing these days. Jeremy, however, went on to an enormous musical career. He was a part of 80-something, the 1980s cover band. He was part of a group that would redo Hamilton songs, and he's always dependable as a drummer, as a keyboardist, as a guitar player. Frankly, it's amazing to me how he just went in this incredible direction. I was never going to be a part of that particular story, but I definitely look back, and I'm glad I got my hours with him. He was an incredible friend to have, and even though we live on separate parts of the country, I will always, always love him.